Enter the world, but tread with care. Those roots remember every prayer. Carved from ash, from bone, from flame. The sacred beasts don't play or game. Here change comes, swift on silver wing, with dragonflies that bite and sting. Truth flickers soft and sharp as steel, and every wound must learn to heal. Don't come armed with hollow lore. This world won't let you fake the war. For those who think they understand, you'll bleed the fastest by your hand. So read and ache, be torn apart. These stories rise from broken hearts. With grit and teeth they scream and soar. You've never known a world like this before.
Welcome to The Black Butterfly, Book 1 of the Sacred Blood series by Sarah Yuher. 10. Chosen. Aerlias. His arm was so cold where he held her against him, more frigid than even Mistress Rose or the vampire that had tried to bite her. His hand was like ice in her hair, the cold stinging her scalp where it touched her. Tears fell freely from her eyes as he held her against him in an iron embrace. Her mind was reeling as her back molded to his front like two puzzle pieces made to fit together. You are owed nothing. Be strong, Aerlias, a voice whispered to her. Aerlias screamed as his fangs plunged into her soft skin, the feeling like ice being driven into her veins. The world went white as Lord Frostfang drank deeply from her. For what felt like an eternity, he drank. When he finally released her, his tongue sent shivers down her spine as he licked the bite. The gentle kiss he pressed on the bite woke other things in Aerlias. Lord Frostfang's arm was like iron around her waist, the only thing she could focus on. The garden around her was spinning, and she was woozy as she tried to focus through her fear. She couldn't stop the whimpering or shaking as the dragon moved its head closer to her. When someone came close to her, Lord Frostfang and the dragon growled. Aerlias sobbed in fright as she silently pleaded for someone to take her away from the vampire and dragon. The world spun as she was suddenly scooped up in his arms, and she felt the movement of Lord Frostfang as he began to walk. When he stopped, she heard voices speaking but couldn't focus on what was being said or who was talking. Another growl from the vampire that held her in his arms brought on fresh sobs and tears. After a bit, she was handed to someone else. Those arms were cold, but not nearly as cold as Lord Frostfang's. She whimpered when she felt the other man return her to Lord Frostfang. She couldn't stop shivering, and there was nothing to warm her. The feeling of going upstairs resumed, and as she looked up at the sky, she saw tree branches covered in beautiful blue blossoms. Mesmerized, she watched them as she was carried. As she gazed at those pretty flowers, she began to feel calmer. Frostfang stopped and looked down at her curiously. His eyes had been rubies, and now they were sapphires, she thought to herself as she looked into those red-ringed sapphire eyes. Then he looked up at the blossoms as well. They just stood there for a time, looking up at the flowers together. Eventually, he shifted her in his arms so that he was holding her cradled in one arm. She squeaked and clung to his chest as he jumped up and plucked a blossom. She couldn't tell what he was thinking as he tucked the blossom behind her ear. His red-ringed sapphire eyes were slightly slanted and showed no emotion she could read. He looked away as he continued to walk. Soon, she was taken inside. The room was warmer than outside, but she still couldn't get warm within the arm she was cradled in. She was carried through another room. She peeked around her, the walls covered in weapons and tapestries depicting the dragon Seraphina in flight. There was a fireplace set against one wall with a glass case on the mantel. Above the mantel was a painting of the same kind of tree the blue flower in her hair came from before a strange building. At first, Aerlias thought it was snowing in the painting, but then she realized the snow was falling petals. The massive canopy bed with heavy curtains indicated the room was a bedroom. Her heart sank with a fresh wave of fear. Are we going to have sex? She felt a small dose of relief when he walked past the bed without stopping. He opened a door that led to another, smaller bedroom. The canopy bed inside looked just as luxurious as the one in the main bedroom, the sheer curtains open on one side. There was a fireplace that had a fire already burning within. A dining table in one corner was set up with a meal, and the smell of it made her mouth water and her stomach growl. Another door led somewhere deeper into the room. Everything in the room looked beautiful, from the polished dark wood to the large rug on the stone floor that looked fluffy and soft. Above the fireplace's mantel was a painting of Seraphina flying through the mountains with Lord Frostfang, the full moon, and a sky of stars above them. Lord Frostfang set Erlias down on the bed in a sitting position as he knelt before her. He watched her quietly. His black hair was cut short at the top, and the long hair at the base of his skull was bound in white cloth like snow. At the end of it, what looked like a white stone ring with a black band running through it was tied to the ribbon. His clothing was of fine dark blue silk that seemed almost black. The embroidered dragon and chain looked of master quality. His copper skin had paled with centuries spent in the dark, never seeing the sun. Erlias wondered what he would look like, bathed in sunlight, and blushed as she wondered what the solid muscles she had felt under his coat looked like. They stayed frozen there and just gazed into each other's eyes. As she lifted her hand to touch Lord Frostfang's cheek, a sound from the doorway broke the spell between them. Those sapphire eyes flashed to Ruby at the interruption. The damper girl in the red dress curtsied to Lord Frostfang. A bite on her neck also let Erlias know she had been chosen. Jealousy spiked through, followed closely by confusion. "My lord, where will I be staying?" she asked politely, and her voice instantly annoyed Erlias. Lord Frostfang gestured to the food on the table. "Eat," he commanded Erlias sternly before turning to the other girl and leading her from the room. As the two left, he closed the door behind them, leaving Erlias alone. She got up from the bed, went over to the table on wobbly legs, and sat down. The meal consisted of a small roast hen with vegetables. A bowl of cut fruit sat next to two jugs. One held wine and one held water. She ignored the wine and drank the water directly from the jug. She took a few bites of fruit before she picked up the plate with the roast and vegetables. When she felt steadier, she went over to the fireplace. There was a couch and low table before the fireplace where one could sit and enjoy the warmth of the fire. Erlias chose to sit on the floor as close to the fire as she could before she tore into the food with ravenous hunger. When she was done, she sat near the fireplace and soaked in the warmth from the fire as she held her cloak close around her. Looking into the flames, she began to feel a little calmer. She was still terrified of what was going to happen to her. Not knowing what the vampire had planned for her was terrifying, and Erlias prayed Lord Frostfang just wanted her to clean his rooms and feed from her. She touched where he had bitten her and shuddered softly with a sudden burst of longing for him. The Dragon Lord of Winter Manor terrified her like a hungry wolf in winter, but just as the wolf is beautiful, so was the vampire that had chosen her. When she finally felt warm and steady, she got up and began exploring the room that was her new home. When the maids had been preparing her for the ball, they had explained what would happen if Lord Frostfang chose her. She would live in the handmaiden's room attached to his room. If he decided to take her as his wife, he would awaken her to the blood, and she would move to his room. "I don't want to be a vampire," she thought to herself. The image of the damper girl flashed through her mind. Erlias tried the door back to Lord Frostfang's room and found it unlocked. She then peeked out. His room was empty. Curiosity got the better of her, and she stepped out into his room. His bed was still perfectly made. The covers and pillows in black and cobalt blue shimmered in the light of the fireplace like silk, and the heavy curtains that would protect him from the sun if the room had windows matched them, though they had a pattern of dragon scales. Erlias ran her fingers across the heavy fabric and smiled at its soft texture. Does he surround himself with things to remind others that he's the Dragon Lord? Or does he do it because Seraphina is precious to him? Erlias wondered to herself. The mantle over the fireplace was tall, and holding onto it as she stood on her toes, she was just barely able to look inside the glass case that rested there. Inside were 5 large eggs nestled on golden silk cushions. She gasped as she thought she heard someone outside the door and dashed back into her room. She leaned against her door as she waited for her heart to stop pounding as she listened for noises within Lord Frostfang's room. None came, and Erlias sighed with relief. Maybe I shouldn't snoop in Lord Frostfang's bedroom. Erlias looked around her room. There was a door at the far end, and she decided to explore there. She walked over and opened it, revealing a large walk-in closet. The walls had bars where dresses could be hung and dressers for anything else. A vanity sat to one side with a chair pushed under and a mirror hung above it. She looked at her reflection in that mirror. Her hazel eyes were red and puffy from sobbing and crying. The pretty blue flower Lord Frostfang had placed behind her ear looked out of place in the chaotic mess of her chocolate hair, and the bite mark on her neck stood out starkly against her pale skin. Erlias gently touched it. It still hurt, but it didn't feel cold anymore. Her mind wandered back to that gentle kiss, so different from the force of his bite. Are all his kisses soft, while his bites are forceful? She turned from the mirror and saw another door. When she opened it, she found a tiled room with a large marble bath on a raised platform against one wall. A large metal spigot was set into the wall over the tub. Confused, she approached it and saw a pull string next to it. Pulling the string, she yelped as hot water began to flow from the fixture. When she let go of the string, the flow stopped. The water that had already poured into the tub swirled down the drain set in the center. Erlias looked at the whole contraption curiously as she touched the spigot gingerly. There was a shelf with plush towels of various sizes folded neatly and a wicker hamper for dirty clothes in the room. Another door beside the shelf revealed a place for her to do her unmentionable business. She walked out of the room and walk-in closet and returned to the main room. She jumped and squeaked when she saw a maid in the room with a cart that she was putting the dishes from Erlias's meal onto. The maid looked up and smiled at her. "I'm sorry, Maiden Erlias. I was clearing the dishes and dropping off some clothes for you." She nodded towards the bed, where a few dresses and nightgowns were laid out. The maid cleared the dishes, grabbed the one Erlias had left by the hearth, and then left Erlias's room. Erlias looked at the dresses and nightgowns. Everything was beautiful and most were silk, with a few made from cotton or wool. A vampire's handmaiden was like a prized pet, so they were dressed to be as beautiful as their vampire master. She felt fresh tears well up and fall from her eyes. The favored pet to bear her master's damper children while his vampire wife stands by his side. Erlias blinked in confusion at the sudden thought. She didn't want to be a vampire, but why did the thought of him choosing another fill her with jealousy? She shook her head, clear of the confusing thoughts, and took the clothes to the closet. Hanging the dresses on the bars, she neatly folded the nightgowns and put all but one in a drawer. Mistress Rose's maids had helped with dressing the offerings, and Erlias struggled with the buttons that another had to help her with when she was readied for the ball. It took her a while, but she managed to finally undo them and let the dress fall to the floor of the walk-in closet. She hung the dress by the door so the maids would know it needed to be brushed and cleaned. The silk nightgown felt smooth as she pulled it on over her head. When Erlias looked at herself in the mirror, she blushed. The thin, light blue silk nightgown ended at mid-thigh, and though it wasn't sheer like the curtains of her canopy bed, it left little to the imagination. On bare feet, she left the closet and returned to her room, going around and dimming the lanterns. Erlias frowned as she pulled back her bed's cream and light blue covers. Why does he decorate his room dark and heavy with weapons around him when this room is soft and colorful? She wondered as she looked around her room. There was more color in her room than in his. Lord Frostfang didn't even have any carpets in his room. The only color was the eggs on the mantel and the above painting. The soft rug on her floor was a mosaic of color, the blue in it matching the blue of the sheets on her bed. He is dangerous and violent, yet he surrounds himself with beauty. Why? Erlias had never questioned or needed to understand the people around her. For her entire life, she had been told what to do and when to do it. As long as she followed orders, she always had a roof over her head and food in her belly. She had never met the master that owned her. Now that she had, she wanted to know more about him. She crawled into her bed and curled up as she remembered how he had launched himself from the stairs toward the vampire that had tried to bite her. That vampire hurt Kieran. She felt a hot burst of anger at that thought and frowned in confusion. Life used to be simple and peaceful, but now it was confusing and scary. Who am I to be chosen by the Dragon Lord of Winter Manor? The Damper girls competed for the chance to be offered to Lord Frostfang. The humans were selected for their health and the taste of their blood. Why was I placed above all the others? Airlias remembered her time in the offering rooms as Mistress Rose had instructed the girls in what was expected of them. While the humans had all been timid and scared, the Dhampirs had been animated and proud. They talked about the competitions they had been in as they were chosen to be offerings. All of them had wanted to be the one to sit at the top, to be the one chosen by Lord Frostfang. Yet Airlias, a timid, scared human, was named the best offering and chosen by Lord Frostfang. Did he choose me because he wanted to? Or was it because that other vampire had tried to bite me? Airlias watched the door that led to Lord Frostfang's room. Part of her was scared that he would come in before dawn to take her like that damper took that slave back at the barracks. Part of her wanted her master to.
O Father, have we failed you? O Mother, have you turned your back on us? What price must we pay for you to send your child unto us? For the chained and the scarred, for the broken and the damned, let us never forget the redemption price. O Father, may you break our chains. O Mother, may you heal our scars. What price must we pay for you to send your child unto us? For the chained and the scarred, for the broken and the damned, let us never forget the redemption price. O Father, can we be redeemed? O Mother, what is life and death? What price must we pay for you to send your child unto us? For the chained and the scarred, for the broken and the damned, let us never forget the redemption price.